The morning started like any other at Morgan Industries. I had my usual coffee in hand, nodding to security as I'd done for the past 3 decades. The weight of my laptop bag felt familiar against my shoulder as I made my way to my office on the 14th floor. I was Thomas Harrison, Senior Director of International Operations, and in 2 days, I would receive my annual bonus, the largest of my career, thanks to our record-breaking year in the Asian markets. But life has a way of surprising you, even after 31 years. I noticed something was off the moment I stepped onto my floor. The usual morning bustle felt muted, and Sarah, my assistant of 15 years, wouldn't meet my eyes. A few colleagues quickly looked away as I passed, their conversations dropping to whispers. Marcus Chen, our new CEO of 6 months, stood in my office doorway. At 42, he was nearly 20 years my junior, brought in by the board to modernize our operations. He wore his usual expensive suit, but his typically smug expression seemed especially pronounced this morning. "Tom, good timing. We need to talk." He gestured into my office like he was inviting me into his own home. I felt a chill run down my spine but maintained my composure. After 31 years, you develop instincts about these things. I set my coffee down on my desk, noticing a woman I didn't recognize sitting quietly in the corner. Her HR badge told me everything I needed to know. "Tom," Marcus began, not bothering to sit down. "I'll keep this brief. The company is moving in a new direction, and we've decided to eliminate your position effective immediately." The words hung in the air like smoke. I sat perfectly still, my hands folded in my lap, as 3 decades of loyalty crystallized into this single moment. "As you know," he continued, "annual bonuses are paid to active employees only. Since your termination is effective immediately, you won't be eligible for this year's distribution." The corner of his mouth twitched slightly, not quite a smile, but close enough. I did the math quickly in my head. My bonus would have been $385,000. Compensation for the most successful year our Asian operations had ever seen. The timing wasn't a coincidence. "I see," I said quietly, "and I assume this decision has been approved by the board?" Marcus waved his hand dismissively. "The board trusts my judgment on operational matters. We're bringing in someone more aligned with our future vision, someone who understands modern business dynamics." The HR woman, Janet, according to her badge, finally spoke up. "We've prepared a severance package," she said, sliding a folder across my desk. 3 months' salary, continuation of benefits through the quarter, and of course, a standard non-compete agreement. I opened the folder slowly, methodically, buying time to think. The non-compete was comprehensive. 2 years, covering all major competitors in our industry. They were offering me $90,000 in severance to sign away nearly $400,000 in earned bonus money and restrict my future employment options. "You'll need to clear out your office today," Marcus added. "Security will assist you." I looked up at him then, really looked at him. He had joined the company just 6 months ago, brought in by a board impressed with his Silicon Valley pedigree and promises of disruption. In that time, he had systematically replaced most of the senior leadership with his own people, younger, less experienced, but eager to implement whatever changes he demanded. I was the last of the old guard. "What about the John contract?" I asked calmly. "The renewal is due next week. Mr. John specifically requested my presence at the signing." Marcus's expression flickered briefly. The John Group was our largest Asian client, representing over $50 million in annual revenue. Mr. John was old school, valuing personal relationships and trust above all else. I had spent years building that trust. "We'll handle the John Group going forward," Marcus said firmly. "Business isn't about personal relationships anymore, Tom. It's about innovation, disruption, thinking outside the box." I almost laughed. In 3 decades of international business, I had learned that personal relationships were everything, especially in Asia. But Marcus wouldn't understand that. He saw everything through the lens of his MBA case studies and Silicon Valley mantras. "Of course," I replied, my voice steady. "Will you be sending Kevin to handle the signing?" Marcus nodded. Kevin Morris, his 29-year-old protege, had been shadowing me on Asian accounts for the past month. The kid was bright but green, more comfortable with PowerPoint than personal interaction. I stood up slowly, deliberately. "Well, if that's all, I should start packing." Marcus seemed almost disappointed by my calm acceptance. Perhaps he had expected anger, tears, or begging. Instead, I began methodically removing personal items from my desk, placing them into a cardboard box that Janet helpfully provided. As I packed, my mind was already working. Marcus might understand Silicon Valley, but he didn't understand our industry, our clients, or, most importantly, me. In 31 years, I had built more than just client relationships. I had built a network, a reputation, and a deep understanding of how this business really worked. I picked up the framed photo from my desk, me with Mr. John at his daughter's wedding in Shanghai 5 years ago. He had insisted I attend, treating me like family. I placed it carefully in the box. "You'll need to sign the severance agreement by tomorrow," Janet reminded me gently. "The non-compete clause is a key component." I nodded, not committing either way. They were so focused on preventing me from joining their traditional competitors that they hadn't considered other possibilities. Security arrived, 2 young guards who looked embarrassed to be escorting out someone who had worked there longer than they'd been alive. As I left, my team watched in stunned silence. Sarah was crying quietly at her desk. I walked out of Morgan Industries for the last time at 9:47 a.m., carrying 31 years of experience in a single cardboard box. Marcus probably thought he had won, that he had cleverly avoided paying my bonus while eliminating a relic of the old guard. But as I drove home, I reached for my phone. I scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I wanted, not a competitor, but something much more interesting. A venture capital firm that had been trying to connect with me for months. I pressed dial. "David, Tom Harrison here. Remember that conversation we had about starting something new in the Asian market? I think I'm finally ready to have that discussion." The pieces were already falling into place in my mind. Marcus thought he had saved the company money today. Instead, he had just made the most expensive mistake of his career. As I pulled into my driveway, I allowed myself a small smile. Monday was going to be very interesting indeed. The weekend passed in a blur of phone calls and meetings. David Wu, the venture capitalist I had contacted, moved with remarkable speed. By Sunday evening, we were sitting in his elegant home office, finalizing the details of what would become Pacific Bridge Partners. "The timing couldn't be better," David said, sliding a term sheet across his mahogany desk. "We've been looking for someone with your expertise in Asian markets. The fact that you're available right now, it's perfect." I glanced at the numbers and had to stop myself from showing any reaction. The investment was substantial, $50 million in initial funding. But more importantly, I would have controlling interest and complete operational autonomy. "Morgan Industries has a non-compete they want me to sign," I mentioned, watching David carefully. He smiled, the kind of smile that made me glad he was on my side. "That's why we're not competing with them. We're creating something new, a specialized consulting firm focused on facilitating Asian market entry for Western companies. Completely different business model." I nodded slowly. He was right. The non-compete specified direct competitors in our manufacturing sector. A consulting firm would be outside its scope, yet would allow me to leverage all my relationships and expertise. "One more thing," David added, pulling out another document. "We've already secured office space, 21st floor, Diamond Tower." I couldn't help but laugh. Diamond Tower was directly across the street from Morgan Industries. From the 21st floor, you could look right into their executive offices. "How did you secure it so quickly?" David's smile widened. "I own the building." Monday morning arrived with a sense of anticipation. I dressed carefully in my best suit, the one I usually reserve for board meetings. At 8:30 a.m., my phone buzzed, a message from Sarah, my former assistant. "OMG, Mr. John is here. Showed up unannounced. He's furious. Marcus is trying to handle it, but it's not going well." I smiled. I hadn't called Mr. John, hadn't needed to. He always visited our offices when he was in town, a courtesy he extended to valued partners. Marcus wouldn't have known that. At 9:15, another text. "Mr. John just walked out. Kevin tried to explain the new digital strategy, and Mr. John said he doesn't do business with children. Marcus is having a meltdown." I was in David's office when my phone rang. The number was from Shanghai, Mr. John's personal line. "Tom," his familiar voice came through clearly. "I just had a most disappointing meeting at Morgan. They did not even show me the respect of informing me about your departure. The young boy they sent to speak with me, he did not even know the correct way to present a business card." I apologize for the confusion, Mr. John. I should have called you directly. No need for apologies. You are like family to me, Tom. When will you be starting your new venture? Perhaps we should discuss future opportunities. I caught David's eye across the desk. He was already nodding enthusiastically. As it happens, I'm in a meeting right now about exactly that. Would you have time for lunch? 2 hours later, I sat across from Mr. John at his favorite restaurant. The private dining room offered a spectacular view of the city, including both Diamond Tower and the Morgan Industries building. 31 years of relationship, Mr. John said, shaking his head. They think this means nothing, that they can simply replace you with a child who learns business from PowerPoint. I maintained a diplomatic tone. Marcus Chen has a different vision for the company. Ah yes, the new CEO. He spoke to me of disruption, of digital transformation, but he could not tell me the names of my grandchildren, whose birth celebrations you attended. Mr. John sipped his tea thoughtfully. Our contract renewal is due next week. I'm aware. Perhaps we should delay the signing. Give us time to explore other arrangements. He glanced meaningfully at the proposal folder I had brought with me. By 2:00 p.m., I was back in David's office, signing the final paperwork for Pacific Bridge Partners. My phone had been buzzing nonstop with messages from former colleagues. Morgan's stock dropped 8% after Mr. John left. Marcus called an emergency executive meeting. He looks terrified. Board members are asking questions about the John account. I turned my phone off. I had work to do. The next few days passed in a whirlwind. David's connections proved invaluable. We secured prime office space, hired key personnel, and began reaching out to potential clients. Word spread quickly through the industry about the new venture. On Thursday morning, I stood at the window of what would be my new office, looking directly across at Morgan Industries. I could see activity in Marcus's corner office, people rushing in and out, gestures that suggested heated discussions. My phone rang. Unknown number. Tom Harrison. Tom, it's Janet from HR at Morgan Industries. She sounded uncomfortable. We noticed you haven't signed the severance agreement yet. Marcus asked me to remind you that it expires tomorrow. Yes, I've been meaning to call about that. I don't think I'll be signing. Silence. Tom, the non-compete is important to the company. Marcus is prepared to increase the severance offer. I watched through the window as Marcus paced in his office. That won't be necessary, Janet. But please tell Marcus I appreciate his concern about competition. He can rest assured that Pacific Bridge Partners won't be competing with Morgan Industries. We'll simply be helping its former clients explore new opportunities. More silence. Pacific Bridge Partners. Yes, you should be receiving our press release shortly. We're announcing our launch next week. I believe Marcus will find the timing interesting, same day as the John contract renewal was supposed to be signed. I could almost hear her connecting the dots. Tom, please. Marcus would like to meet with you. To discuss options. I'm afraid my schedule is quite full. Setting up a new company takes considerable time. But please give Marcus my regards. And Janet, thank you for being professional last Friday. I know that couldn't have been easy. I hung up and turned back to the window. Marcus had stopped pacing. He was staring across the street, realization dawning on his face as he finally understood what I had set in motion. My phone buzzed again. A message from Mr. John's office confirming our meeting for next week. He wasn't the only one. 3 other major Morgan clients had reached out, all expressing interest in exploring new opportunities. David knocked on my door. Ready for the executive team interviews? We've got some impressive candidates. I smiled, picking up my folder of resumes. Many were from Morgan Industries, talented people who had been watching Marcus's changes with growing concern. They brought with them not just expertise, but client relationships and industry knowledge that had taken years to develop. Marcus thought he had saved money by firing me before my bonus was due. Instead, he had removed the one person who might have been able to stop what was coming. I followed David to the conference room, where the first candidate was waiting. She looked familiar. It took me a moment to place her. She had been part of my team at Morgan, someone Marcus had overlooked and undervalued. Perfect. The pieces were falling into place faster than I had anticipated. But this was just the beginning. Marcus's real education in modern business dynamics was about to begin. 1 month after my termination, I sat in my new office reviewing the latest numbers. Pacific Bridge Partners had exceeded even David's optimistic projections. In just 4 weeks, we had secured 5 major clients, 3 of them former Morgan accounts. The John Group had been first, naturally. Their press release announcing the switch had sent shockwaves through the industry. "We value partnerships built on trust and understanding," Mr. John had stated pointedly. "Some things cannot be disrupted." Morgan's stock had dropped 15% that day. My intercom buzzed. "Mr. Harrison, Marcus Chen is in the lobby. He doesn't have an appointment, but he's insisting on seeing you." I smiled, glancing across at the Morgan building. "How long has he been waiting?" 20 minutes. "Let him wait another 10, then send him up." When Marcus finally entered my office, he looked different. The smug confidence was gone, replaced by something closer to desperation. His designer suit was slightly rumpled, his tie loosened. "Nice view," he said, gesturing to the window overlooking his building. "I thought so. Please, have a seat." He sat, clearly uncomfortable. "Look, Tom, I think we got off on the wrong foot. The board, they feel we may have been hasty in our decision to terminate your position." "Really? I thought I was outdated, not aligned with your vision of modern business." Marcus shifted in his chair. "Perhaps I was overzealous in my desire for change. The board has authorized me to offer you your position back. Full reinstatement, including your bonus." I leaned back, enjoying the moment. "That's generous. And what about Kevin? The one you sent to handle the John account?" Marcus flushed. "Kevin has been reassigned to the mailroom." I knew this was true. Sarah kept me well informed about Morgan's internal matters. "The point is, we're prepared to make this right. Whatever it takes." I stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city. "You know what your biggest mistake was, Marcus? Not the firing. Companies restructure all the time. Not even denying my bonus. That was just petty greed. No, your biggest mistake was assuming that business is just about numbers and PowerPoint presentations." I turned back to him. Business is about people, relationships, trust, things that take years to build and moments to destroy. You thought you could simply replace those relationships with your modern business dynamics. "The board meets next week," Marcus said quietly. "Our quarterly numbers, they're not good. If we could announce your return." "I'm afraid that's impossible. You see, I'm quite happy here. We just signed 2 more clients this morning. Former Morgan clients, actually. Apparently, they prefer working with people who understand their business." The color drained from Marcus's face. "Which clients?" "You'll find out in tomorrow's press release. But I should thank you, Marcus. If you hadn't fired me, I might never have taken this step. Sometimes getting pushed out of your comfort zone is exactly what you need." Marcus stood abruptly. "This isn't over. We still have legal options. The non-compete. The non-compete I never signed. The one that wouldn't apply anyway because we're not competing in manufacturing. That non-compete." He deflated visibly. "What do you want?" "Nothing. Pacific Bridge Partners is doing quite well. Our clients are happy. My team, including several former Morgan employees you overlooked, they're happy. And I'm very happy." I walked to my door, opening it. "Good luck with the board meeting, Marcus. I hear they're particularly interested in discussing the John Group's departure, and the others that followed." After you left, I received a text from Sarah. "Board just called an emergency session for tomorrow morning. Marcus looks like he's about to throw up." I smiled, turning back to my work. The quarterly report on my desk showed Pacific Bridge Partners was projected to handle over $100 million in business by year's end. Most of it from former Morgan clients who valued long-term relationships over flashy presentations about disruption. My phone buzzed. "David. Just heard from my contact on Morgan's board. They're voting tomorrow on Marcus's leadership. Want to have dinner to celebrate." I looked across at the Morgan building, at Marcus's office where he sat with his head in his hands. "Let's wait until after the vote," I replied. "I have a feeling tomorrow's going to be worth celebrating." The next morning, I arrived early to find Sarah waiting in my office. She had finally accepted my standing job offer, bringing with her 15 years of experience in client relationships. "Morgan's stock is down another 12% in pre-market trading," she reported. "Rumors about the board meeting are spreading." I nodded, reviewing the press release we had prepared announcing our 2 newest clients. The timing, just before Morgan's board meeting, wasn't coincidental. "Should I send it out now?" Sarah asked. Wait 1 hour. Let's give the board time to gather first. By 10 a.m., the news was everywhere. Pacific Bridge Partners had secured two of Morgan's largest remaining Asian clients. Our press release emphasized our commitment to traditional business values and long-term relationships, phrases that made our target clear. At 11:30, the announcement came. Marcus Chen had resigned to pursue other opportunities. The board was launching an immediate search for new leadership. I received one final text from Janet in HR. "You really knew how to play the long game, didn't you?" I smiled, remembering Marcus's smirk when he fired me. He had thought he was being clever, saving the company money by terminating me before my bonus was due. Instead, his short-sighted decision had cost Morgan Industries hundreds of millions in lost business and market value. The bonus I'd lost? I'd made 10 times that amount in the past month alone. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about building something better from the ashes of what others tried to destroy. 1 year later, I stood at the podium of the Asian Business Leadership Conference, accepting the award for Most Innovative Business Partnership. The irony wasn't lost on me. Pacific Bridge Partners had grown beyond anyone's expectations. What started as a response to an unfair termination had evolved into something truly special. We now employed over 200 people, including many former Morgan Industries staff who shared our vision of relationship-based business. As I left the stage, I noticed a familiar face in the crowd. Marcus Chen sat near the back, looking considerably less polished than he had a year ago. After his forced resignation from Morgan, he had struggled to find another executive position. Apparently, being known as the CEO who lost the John Group and nearly destroyed a century-old company wasn't great for one's resume. At the reception afterward, he approached me, nursing what appeared to be his third scotch. "Congratulations," he said, not quite meeting my highs. "You really built something impressive." "Thank you, Marcus. How's the startup consulting going?" I knew from industry gossip that he'd been reduced to freelance work, advising small tech companies that didn't know better. He flinched. "It's transitional. Actually, I've been meaning to reach out. I heard you're expanding into tech consulting, and with my Silicon Valley experience." I cut him off gently. "I don't think that would be a good fit, Marcus. We value experience, but we value integrity more." His face hardened. You could have just fought back when I fired you. Filed a lawsuit, made some noise. Instead, you destroyed everything I built." "No, Marcus, you destroyed it yourself. I just built something better." As if on cue, Mr. John appeared at my elbow. "Tom, we must discuss the new venture in Singapore. My grandson is very excited about the opportunity." I smiled apologetically at Marcus and turned to greet Mr. John properly. As we walked away, I heard Marcus order another scotch. Later that evening, I received an unexpected call from Morgan Industries' new CEO, Patricia Wong. She had taken over 6 months earlier, tasked with rebuilding what Marcus had torn down. "Tom, I'm not calling to try to win back your clients," she began. "What's done is done. But I would like your advice, off the record, about rebuilding relationships in the Asian market." I appreciated her honesty. "What would you like to know? How do we avoid making the same mistakes? The board is pressuring me for quick results, but you understand that real relationships take time," I finished. "That's a good start, Patricia. You're already ahead of your predecessor." We talked for an hour. I shared some insights, not everything, but enough to help her avoid the worst pitfalls. Morgan Industries had been my home for 31 years after all. Part of me wanted to see it survive, even if as a smaller, humbler company. The next morning, I called a staff meeting. Looking around the conference room, I saw faces that reflected decades of experience alongside younger employees who brought fresh perspectives. We'd have found the balance Marcus never understood. Pacific Bridge Partners started because someone thought experience didn't matter. I told them. They thought relationships could be disrupted, that trust could be automated. They were wrong. I gestured to the view outside, where Morgan Industries building stood as a reminder. But we're not here to prove anyone wrong anymore. We're here to prove what's right, to show that business can be both modern and traditional, innovative and respectful. Sarah, now our chief of operations, stood up. "Speaking of proving things," she said with a smile, "our key 4 numbers just came in. We've officially surpassed Morgan's Asian market share." Applause filled the room, but I held up my hand. "That's not our metric for success. Our success is measured in relationships maintained, trust earned, and promises kept. The numbers follow naturally from that. After the meeting, I stood at my window one last time, looking at Marcus's old office. The space was empty now. Patricia preferred a more centrally located office among her team. My phone buzzed with a message from Mr. John. Having dinner with my family tonight. We would be honored if you would join us. My newest granddaughter's first month celebration. I smiled, already reaching for my coat. Some invitations don't need to be checked against a business strategy. Some relationships transcend the bottom line. Marcus never understood that. But his final gift to me, firing me 2 days before my bonus, have forced me to build something far more valuable than any bonus could measure. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even, it's about getting better.